That's going. This. Turn this on.
Sitting like this the whole time.
Sorry.
That's great. It'll add to the
experience. The Sketchy Van podcast.
Let's take a swig to good luck.
Yeah, apparently people do that actually.
Oh, they definitely do.
So this thing is like never in focus. So this is Marshall's camera.
Interesting. Oh, the things that camera has seen.
All the horrible.
All the horrible things.
I think we're going. I think everything is recording now.
Even this one?
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. It's all going. Even this.
Wow.
Everything is going.
Wow. Okay.
I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna light this.
Oh, okay.
And if it gets too hot, which it probably will, because
It's perfect right now, and you're ruining it with your. Is that really?
Is that what you're supposed to do?
I'm gonna push this.
Oh, no, here, okay, I want you to light it.
Oh, okay, great.
There we go.
Amazing.
There's fire now.
Don't. It's staying on your
Okay,
side.
sure, fine. How you doing?
I'm, great. Very comfortable.
Nice.
Very, happy. Living a great life.
Cool.
What can I say?
Yeah.
Lovely weather out there.
Yeah.
Not so much in here, but over there.
I get it. It's gonna get very hot in here very quickly.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, okay.
So there's this this pot is here just in case.
To piss in?
No, you just
Oh.
put it on top and then it.
Okay.
Yeah. So. Do you want to introduce yourself? I mean, everyone who probably watches this already knows who you are, probably. But do you want to introduce yourself to my?
To you? To Christian?
I have 500 subscribers now.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I just going to talk to you, or am I supposed to look over here? My name is Sinix. I do art. I'm an art teacher at LCAD and Brainstorm and YouTube, more importantly. Technically, I got all those other jobs because of YouTube, so I guess primarily YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm a YouTube person.
Instagram a little bit, too?
Yeah, Instagram's fun.
Yeah. Well, I guess the way I usually start these things is, it's like, the point of this thing is not to talk about, like, technique or craftsmanship.
So I don't know anything about any of those things.
Hey, you're a bad artist. It's more to talk about, like, the why of doing this stuff in the first place.
All right.
You know?
The weirder and more philosophical you can get, the better.
Absolutely,
in my opinion, yeah, go as nuts as you want.
I'm just curious, like, what's the point of doing all this stuff? You know, it's like,
Well, I don't know what the point of this is, certainly.
I don't know. Oh, so normally I roast marshmallows on this thing.
Oh, okay.
But I ran out of skewers and marshmallows.
So now it's just to roast us.
It'll be like, next time I get marshmallows, that's when there will be marshmallows again. But until then, it's just fire.
Yeah. There we go.
Fire in this.
Use it as a little pillow.
I actually have a real pillow over there.
No, I'm good. That's what my hair is for. Yeah. So why this? Why art? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I have the option.
Why live? Why exist?
Exactly. I mean, like,
why
seriously,
meaning?
like, why do anything? It's like, I mean, I would be living in comfortable apartments and living in, like, like, making money and doing the whole thing and, like, living an objectively comfortable life. But every time
Is that objectively comfortable?
or I guess subjective, like generic, like stereotypically
Generically comfortable?
like Fight Club.
Okay.
Comfortable.
Sure.
I like every day when I was living that way, I was thinking about, like, I can't wait until I live in a van. I can't wait until I like pee in a bottle and sleep in parking
I think
lots.
about that all the time. Can't wait. Someday.
Yeah, one day I'll be
able to pee in a bottle.
And I guess I'm curious. It's like, when I look at your art, I really like your art a lot, and I love your videos. And but I've heard you say before, it's like you like the process of doing it way more than the final product.
Oh yeah, I could care less about the actual art I make. I really like discussing and enjoying the process of making stuff more than anything. Jeez, you're falling apart over there.
I'm gonna keep checking these cameras because they shut down every 20 minutes.
Oh, that's fine. I enjoy the process of art. That is what's fun. The puzzle solving, the solutions, the act of trying to get to a point more so than actually reaching the point. Journey over destination, which, I mean, you're in a van right now, so if anyone understands journey over destination, I would assume it's you, right?
Yeah, I've been reading Way of Kings.
Okay.
The whole, Brandon Sanderson stuff.
I don't know it, but yes.
Okay. Well, there's
you can give me a quick
a big part
summary.
It's like an epic fiction fantasy book, and a big part of one of the things is journey before destination.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a big part of our culture is to make as much money as possible and to get as many followers as possible.
You don't say.
And to get as much approval from other people as possible.
Yeah.
It's never about just enjoying what you have and what you and being appreciative of what where you're at.
Well, there is that constant search for, like you said, like why.
Yeah.
I think that's the main reason. People got to find some kind of, I don't know, idea of there must be something more important than just chilling out and being happy or something. So they're trying to look for something that's going to provide that. And mostly futilely. I don't think most people find anything that's necessarily going to make that more meaningful. But
I don't know. I would disagree with that. I think most people do, actually. Like, in a sense. I mean, not necessarily like their life's mission or their passion and whatever that means, but like you can find an incredible amount of meaning out of like cleaning toilets or sweeping floors.
Sure. It's more so the like accumulation of wealth and money usually doesn't do it for people as much as they think it will. At least that's been my experience as someone who grew up in the upper middle class.
I grew up in a similar. My parents pursued money, and again, I think they're fine people.
My parents are great. I don't, but they certainly saved up more money. That one just turned off.
That one just died. Okay, continue your thought.
Yeah, they certainly. I feel like they spent more time accumulating money and not a whole lot of time knowing what to do with that wealth and everything. Like they almost put the idea of accumulation above everything else. And to some respect, that's, the good side is I was raised to be very, I guess, financially smart and good with money and always, kind of never overspending and always just being super responsible. But I definitely also recognize that they went way, they went into a meaningless realm of it where they weren't even, enjoying things. Like every time they go to the supermarket, it's only we're just going to eat the crappiest, the cheapest stuff everywhere. Every restaurant, it's let me just see the bargain, menu and stuff. And I feel like that is such a, a big missing out on, what's the point of having the money if you're not, doing anything at all to, take part in the wealth that you've accumulated.
Right.
So I definitely, I took most of what I learned about, financial stuff from them. But that aspect, I was I felt like they missed, out on, what the actual point of it was,
Purpose. Yeah.
So I try to at least, I'll spend money on food. Food is the one thing I learned from them. It's why not enjoy food? Food is what becomes part of you. Literally, that's what you're made of. You're just made of the things you eat. So you might as well at least, eat some decent stuff here and there. Try different, exotic things, even if it costs more to go to a nice restaurant now and then, or, get, just fancier cuts of meat or whatever it may be. I consider that to be one of the most important things for whatever reason. I think that's a very American cultural thing because a lot of people just don't want to spend money on food.
Well, and I think it's people don't want to spend money in general, and I think it's
which is weird, right?
Fear based,
Yeah,
it's I don't know. I understand something like the Great Depression, right? It's if you spend so much money that you actually can't afford to buy a bag of potatoes to feed your family.
This makes me nervous.
Yeah, it's worked.
Okay, fine. I'll leave it
fine, but I think it's again you can see little tinges.
I'm a very worrier person, just so you know.
I like this thing because it's dangerous.
It messes with my balance of everything.
And if you spill this, it would still be on fire. Because it's alcohol. So it is.
That's how we'll end this thing. We'll just throw it on you.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Can ruin my laptop.
Yeah, I'm a worrier person. I can't enjoy watching little kids play because they're so teeter-tottery, you know, like they're always on the verge of falling, and I find that too stressful to like enjoy. Some people like just learn to watch like little kids play and fall without like, you know, having any worries, but I'm constantly like, don't fall. Okay, don't get hurt. Don't get hurt.
Like I don't know, watching kids play is surreal because they're so bendy, you know.
Yeah,
they
like never get hurt.
Yeah,
it's like that's the weird part. They can just like fall down the stairs and be like,
oh yeah, that doesn't hurt.
Unless everyone looks at them, because then they'll be like, then that's like the only reason. It's more for like reaction, but they actually don't really get hurt
they don't
much.
Feel any pain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. With all this stuff, I mean, it's like I've been trying. Like we talked about the capitalism idea before, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like
one of my favorite topics.
Well,
everyone hates when I talk about.
Well, but it's like is something like Amazon good? Is something like Tesla good? And like there are parts of it that are good, obviously, but then there are parts of it that are horrible too, you know. And I'm trying to identify: is it mostly bad to be capitalist? You know. And the answer is I'm pretty sure it's not. You know.
It's for the most part, it's more so a recognition of the kind of end result, like the 1,000-year end results of capitalism that are like the dangerous side of it. There are ways to make it very sustainable, which is, I think, what most people kind of want. Obviously, everyone agrees on most levels of, like, we need sustainability, which is why you have, like, anti-monopoly things and, you know, copyright protection, IPs. Like, all that stuff is, you know, theoretically, like, goes against... There's a lot of things that go against, like, core capitalism. You know, even having, like, minimum wages that, you know, a lot of people disagree with that and stuff. But, like, all that stuff is kind of... It's very important for the sustainability of it all. So, like, it's more so when people refuse to acknowledge that it will, that it requires some of that. I think that's when it gets a little bit on the more malicious, dangerous side of things.
Yeah. Well, and I think at a certain scale, I mean, if you're going to build 100 million iPhones, there are probably going to be people that take advantage of, you know.
Yeah, I'm getting entranced when I stare at the flames. I'm like hypnotizing.
The fire god.
Yeah.
Do you see any visions or anything?
Not yet. I'll let you know.
Yeah, maybe if you look at it for long enough. Yeah. I love this thing, man. It's like, I don't know. It's a party favorite. You know, everyone I show it to likes it.
Yeah.
And there's a tinge of danger again, so it's like it's kind of exciting. You know.
Yeah.
Even though it's.
And fire is just like one of the trippiest things I think. In the world, almost like it's one of the most like obscure concepts just in and of itself. Sorry, I got completely
totally.
I took off your capitalism thing.
Well, I think it all relates somehow. You know,
we can tie it all together.
Well, I think it's. I mean,
but there's this like, what are we seeing when we see fire? You know, like that's always like such a trippy thing. Like, this is fire an actual thing? Are we just seeing these like molecules of heat? You know, doing stuff
like a side effect of oxygen just being burnt up.
I'm always curious to know if like if like all like what level of animals can even see fire. Yeah. Like, how visible is this to like everyone? You know. Right. This like certain wavelength of light and energy and heat. Like, is it just our eyes that like see it in this size and these shapes?
Well, I mean, dogs can't see red, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe dogs are dogs just generally colorblind, but also I don't know. I think they're slightly. They can see slight colors, but they're for sure red colorblind. I think. You know? Yeah. And then octopus or what's the creature that can see like way more of the spectrum than we can?
Octopus and snakes see in infrared.
Yeah. Right. So theoretically, this fire to them would be like this big or something. You know, like the flame itself would be like way out here or something, right?
Yeah. Right.
And the way we see it as just this little part of it is like, you know, theoretically the whole world could look like this for all we know to a certain animal.
Yeah. Well, I just been thinking about, like, the thing I've been telling people, I got back from driving around the country 3 or 4 days ago. And the thing I've been telling people is this trip has affirmed my belief that a God exists.
Oh,
and I'm not really sure what I mean when I say that, but it's like, even the complexity, like there's fire, but then there's also the complexity of your own body. It's like, I couldn't even begin to explain my own eyes and how they work, you know?
Yeah.
I can understand it objectively, like, you know, like it's reflected in my eyeball and gets directed in my brain, but that's fucking nonsense to me, you know? It's like, I have no idea how that even fucking starts. And when I look at the complexity of everything around me, it's like, you know, again, fire, couldn't even begin to explain that. The fact that we have oxygen around us, that we are confident we can breathe, and there's a giant ball of fire in the sky that we just, that's been the consistent ball of fire in the sky for all time, and everyone is just cool with that, and it's like I don't know, just a strange idea,
I am not religious. I don't necessarily believe in any higher sense of things. But I don't feel like that changes this that aspect of like the sense of like impressive wonder of everything, It's just, for me it's just a weirder just aspect of, the amazingness, like just the chaos and just everything involved in the whole universe. I find it very interesting, but I'm also like, I kind of recognize that like our understanding of it is so just kind of primitive that like, I wouldn't dare to make any assumptions about like even understanding half the laws of the universe or anything.
Like even I for sure don't understand myself at all, like how my brain works. It's like way beyond my ability to understand it. And I guess when I say I believe in God, it's more of like I don't believe in like a specific Christian God or Muslim God or just,
Abrahamic God,
or Scientologist God, but it's more of like a the fact that I can assign meaning to things is really weird to me. It's like when you look at a hammer, you don't see a collection of molecules and atoms. You see a hammer. You see something that could be used to, build a house or murder somebody, or you see the tool, right? Yeah. And I think to me that's like a version of God, like in a biblical sense, like. You're created in the image of God. You can't like create a universe, but you can create meaning in something. That is
there's kind of objective value. It's hard for me with my which I'm trying to suss out what you're going for with that, but it's mostly for me it's just I don't know. I'm a determinist, so I'm like completely devoid of any of that kind of feeling of things, but like it's I don't know. I guess I take a strong opinion in like our ability to just basically create our own meaning in whatever and like have that be just as valid as anything, because to another extent there's no like overall like greater sense of things, which some people will find that depressing, but on the other hand it can also be very positive because it generally puts everything on this even footing of like meaning is whatever you want it to be, almost like I think everything's valid or nothing's valid. Like it's like if nothing's valid, everything's valid, I guess.
Well, I agree with that to an extent. I agree that you can like nothing matters in the cosmic scale. Like the more you zoom out, like in a million years, this conversation won't matter, right? That's true. Maybe. That's objectively true. But
you never know what we might figure out.
13 points.
Maybe we'll say the correct string of syllables that will cause the whole world to explode and,
become another Big Bang. And then this becomes...
It was just a set of syllables that causes the perfect key to all things.
To cause another Big Bang.
It's always possible, Some generation will look at us like monkeys on a typewriter and they'll be like, I can't believe they said the perfect string of syllables.
They finally did it.
They did it.
Yeah.
The grand experiment is over. It took millions and billions of years, but they finally did it.
Well, I guess part of my argument for a God existing is that you actually can't help but value things, It's like if the world was just completely based, like, you could just choose your values, then it would be a lot simpler. But, like, if I stabbed you right now, you'd be like, this fucking...
Oh my gosh, I don't like where this is going.
No, I'm working hard, man.
There's a knife over there.
There's a knife, Shout out to Schwinn. But it's like pain for sure matters. You can't help but feel pain, and you can't help but find that meaningful. Like, when a parent dies or a family member is sick or any, like, you can't help but think about that. There's a meaning in there that you can't help but feel.
But for me personally, that's just the overarching theme of basically our own animal instincts and our own self-preservation, that fear of loss, that fear of that strong feeling of unease, like anytime we kind of recognize that the threats to our own existence.
I mean, I don't know if I believe we're completely instinctual creatures,
Okay.
Like,
I do.
Well, I don't know. It's like maybe to a degree, but it's like when I go around the country and I see churches or like giant cities being built, and like it's strange to me that there are thousands and thousands of miles of roads, and I'm confident that can get me across the country, and they actually exist. It's like there have been millions of man hours put into these things, millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and they're there, right? I don't know who built them. I will never think about it, and it's like that wasn't just instinctual, you know.
You can say that. I mean, we can slightly have our own opinions on that, but in my opinion, it's just the grand complications of, you know, society and everything coming together, and like you put enough, you know, of these, like you take one simple idea, you know, that like nature had, which was like, you know, self-replicate and, you know, basically survive, and you just like put that in like a little condensed pot, like, and you just let it like simmer for long enough, and you get this kind of, you know, all of this, you know, this like these buildings, these houses, this van that takes you places, like everything just comes from that one idea. I actually find that way more, I guess, like that's super interesting and like, I don't know, enjoyable to me, the fact that it would be just from like that instinct. And I feel like trying to figure that out, puzzle that out, like once again, that's, you know, you can kind of put your own twist on it, but like that's a very exciting like journey over destination kind of thing, where it's like, so like how does this journey get so complex to lead to this, you know, state of things?
Well, I mean, I'm curious why you think you do art, you know, like is it purely just instinctual? Like, I mean,
there is mostly a sense of like the core idea, and I can get into like, I guess the question would be, why would you think that? Is just to make the world a more interesting place. And then like that's the core of it. I just found that interesting from when I was a kid. Just the idea of just make the world kind of more, you know, more interesting, more whimsical, more just strange. You know, like I love the idea, like we could just like look under one of these bushes and maybe some guy like 50 years ago hid like a little gnome house that he built or something. Like I love the idea of stuff like that. Like that stuff like super interests me, and in fact I should be living that more. Like I should be the one to hide a little tiny structure.
You want to do that? Well, we should do that today, actually.
I don't know what we would do it out of, but
I could find, we can do a painting or something and leave it under there
and just hide it somewhere. I love the idea of stuff like that. I remember like I've seen, you know, I think there was like a New York artist who used to just like make little miniature people, you know, like they're like this big, and just like have them all look like they're going about their daily life, and you just like hide them in these very obscure places. So there'd be one here, and he's just like sitting reading the newspaper and stuff, and he would just leave them like everywhere around the city. So it's just like these weird little like pieces of things. And that like just weird aspect of just making the world like weird, like even heightening that sense of everything. Then it gets into, of course, back to your question, like what's the point of that? Well, but it really is just kind of, I think if you enjoy like the seeing that this is all a journey of like that one idea, then it's kind of like you just want to be like, let me just keep pushing that into the further extremes and surrealist aspects of it, to where I don't know, that like just doing that and knowing like kind of that it comes from this very like a cell just wants to reproduce, you know, like that kind of thing. Well, and then 10 million years later, a cell wanting to reproduce leads to a person like hiding a painting in a bush somewhere, you know, which is so like just arbitrary and weird, but it's kind of that progress is just interesting, and you kind of want to play into it a little bit.
Well, to me, that idea of that one idea, that one instinct is God. You know, I don't believe in the God that you can talk to and pray to and like blow up buildings and he'll give you 92 versions or whatever. You know, it's like, I think that's nonsense. But
is it nonsense?
Well, it's
maybe it's just as legitimate as everything else.
But it's like what's the evolutionary benefit of drawing robots, or you know?
Yeah, there's something.
But it's like
it's once again, it's just adding to that surrealist side of things.
Well, so I think if you look at it from a purely instinctual point of view, there's no point in drawing robots. There's some value assigned to it.
Now, you could say that, or you could say that it's just at such a deeper level of the instinct that is, like, once again, like, it's that almost, like, obscure surrealist side of the, like, the natural progression of the instinct that is like worth, just playing into, and just like completely like throwing yourself at every weird whim you might feel about, just like, I just want to do that. I just want to climb that tree. I just want to do that.
Yeah.
And like having some deeper feeling that is actually could be attributed to all of your, somehow, if you were to be the biggest galaxy brain person, that you would be able to take everything that you do, no matter how weird, and basically take it in a linear fashion all the way back to this cell just wants to live a little longer.
Right.
I find that very interesting. And once again, obviously, when I put it like that, it's, it goes back to show how much of a determinist I am. Because I truly, instinct, determinism, like, they're hand in hand. Like, obviously, as someone who believes in determinism, it means that I have that strong, like, feeling that, like, instinct is just a singular force that has created all this, this weirdness, these manicured plants that are shaped like boxes for no reason, and like, just all this stuff.
I think it's complicated in the sense where it's like,
it's definitely complicated.
It's like the most complicated thing. And I guess when it comes to just being instinct, and the reason I don't necessarily buy that is because I guess to me it seems kind of nihilistic,
yeah, but it is nihilistic, but it's also, like I said, it's the idea that because nothing has a greater meaning, everything has a greater, meaning is such a, it's such a word for us as people to inflict on this universe that has no concept of it,
Right.
Like pretending that, a person is of more consequence than like a rock over there or something like that. Like in the universe's eyes, like that's, just nothing. But like certainly we can provide a context for it, in terms of our own sense of self instinct. Once again for me, which it's fine if you have a different opinion on, because I'm not going to say like my opinion is the one that needs to be, important to a greater extent. Like I've certainly come to terms with the fact that like, just because I have this strong feeling of things, like it doesn't, by nature of it, I can't invalidate anyone else's opinion on like all that stuff.
Well, I guess the way it relates to me is I'm curious why people do anything, I'm curious, like, why does somebody dedicate their lives to making paintings or videos or building buildings or being a gardener?
Well, no, you're not curious because you have your opinion that that is your concept of a kind of a deeper thing, right?
I guess I'm looking for evidence for that.
Oh,
yeah,
Well, for me, I can use all my brain powers to try to suss out a line of instinct that leads to those points, and I think I think that's fun because to me, I've since I was a kid, I like taking things apart. I like puzzles. That is the core of why I got into certainly teaching. Like that's how I found my thing I like doing in art was my love for just figuring things out, solving puzzles, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So when I see a puzzle that's, a trillion pieces large and the size of a country or whatever, that's when I'm just like, I'm more excited about that idea than I am, kind of a lot of other ideas.
Right.
So the fact that in theory, it would be possible to link all this stuff like in a linear way back to some basic instinct, I actually find that super just fulfilling for me. And like, and I can understand if other people don't find that fulfilling or that they want something different to kind of fill that sense. But I like that sense of that big puzzle thing that just can be like almost, if you were smart enough, could be like figured out to some extent.
Yeah.
That's most of it.
Well, yeah, I think we agree on. I think we actually believe the same thing in a sense. It's just different ways of working.
We have different. We believe in a lot of the same stuff. We have slightly different, and when it comes to the certain smaller aspects of these, puzzles, we just have a slightly different opinion on that. Probably a little bit, but
yeah.
I mean, for the most part, I think the thing that everyone forgets is that for the most part, like I trust in animal instinct, that the nature that everyone just wants basically is programmed with the same things. Every plant's going to grow if you give it the right settings, that kind of stuff. And I apply that to humans too. So like, the one thing I've always disliked about, society, and I know why they do it, for certain, different ends and goals, but the idea that someone could like potentially be like more evil or more good than like other people, or that like a certain society can be evil, or like a certain even like a religion or something, like so many wars get fought over that. But like, in my opinion, there's no such thing as like I have enough belief in like everyone's instinct to like know that it's just a mashup of both misunderstanding, but more so than that, it's a mashup of personal self-interest being, in conflict with other people's self-interest. But at the end of the day, they all have the same basic self-interest, which is, to basically replicate themselves and live the best they can.
But would you agree that there is, to some degree, like an underlying ethic? It's like it's bad to kill people, right?
That it's bad to kill people in the sense that like that's the
Holocaust is bad, right?
Yes, it's horrible for society.
Yeah.
When I talk about evil and stuff, I always put it in the context of for society. Yeah. Like, this is bad for society, this is good for society. Because obviously I don't believe in like some greater, objective sense of that, like in like a grander thing, like the universe might not, it doesn't have like a greater meaning, but we've invested ourselves in the concepts of, like kind of community, society stuff. And yeah, certain things are just completely terrible for society for the sake of our happiness. And that, once again plays into our instinct for wanting to have a healthy, secure life and all of this stuff and be able to raise kids. When you factor in all that stuff, yeah, you could say, like, in that context, yeah, that all these murder is terrible, all these horrible atrocities that have happened, they're all, in that context, just extremely, just terrible things.
Well, I guess part of I believe in good and evil. I believe,
okay.
And the reason I can say that is because I know the Holocaust is bad. I know that that's absolutely evil, right?
Yeah, for society.
Yeah. Well, so are you saying the Holocaust is No,
I'm saying we should be basing it on what's good or bad for society. But do aliens on another planet care about the Holocaust? Well,
I think there is a subjective
we wipe out like complete species of animals, and you can probably run over a anthill and wipe out a million living things, but
right.
and to them that's I don't know what kind of level of self-awareness they have. Probably none. I don't know if ants are very self-aware, but there's that sense of, it's certainly for them that's a horrible trait. For us, what is that? It's nothing to us.
Yeah, but I guess it's
is that evil? Is that like a malicious act, or is that?
Well, I think the more you zoom, obviously the more you zoom out, the less it matters, right? It's like when you.
Well, yeah, that's the point, right?
Well, but it's like to you that you actually can't do that, right? It's like if people you knew were in the Holocaust, that's
what I mean. It's for my instinct as a society and everything. I'm going to process it like that.
But like as a living being, it's like you actually can't detach your.
Oh, well, not even as a living being, because once again, ants. But I would say as a human, certainly you can't. Like, I don't think. Honestly, I think my cat is pretty smart. Like, I think my cat understands emotions and things like that.
Yeah.
I think if my cat was capable of understanding that maybe there was a genocide that wiped out half the world, I don't think my cat would actually have any emotional reaction to that,
Right.
Outside of its own personal kind of sense of things. So does my cat understand, good and evil? It understands it if I do something good or evil to, like, in a context that it's familiar with. But I don't know if there's like a greater sense of it universally.
I guess it's to me, part of it is like, of course, when you zoom out on a cosmic scale, none of it matters. But the fact that we're able to make that distinction, that there are, like, for us personally, not for ants, not for lions, not for aliens, for us personally, we can make a distinction that something is bad, right?
Yes, like, for us, yes.
Okay,
I'm gonna keep saying it
for us, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine. But it's like I don't think zooming out actually helps anybody. I think actually saying that gets us a little bit closer to our own versions of the Holocaust. Because once you start trivializing, it's like, oh, that doesn't matter.
I wouldn't say it's trivializing, though. It's more so acknowledging why it's bad, which I think is value. I don't know. I consider that like, it's one thing to say something's evil in and of itself. Yeah. I feel like there's a stronger value in saying why it's evil, kind of. Yeah. Like, maybe that's a slight difference, because I do feel like there is, like, you should be able to make a case, you know, that doesn't just rely on a concept of like a universe. Like, I should be able to say why this is evil for all of us as a society. And I feel like that's more valuable, to be able to draw these kind of random, like, conclusions based on our situation that are, in some ways, I think that's more effective than trying to go for a greater, just all-encompassing sense of good anymore. And mainly for the reason that, like, you know, a lot of people will twist, like, what they is, like, righteous and what is wrong, like, because they can just chalk it up to these grander, you know, exterior feelings. Like, all of these things that happen, all the atrocities, you know, crusades and whatnot, and just everything throughout human history, there's been so much, you know, conflict and things. Most of it is from that sense of, you know,
that higher.
Yeah, you do it from a place of, well, this is just, it's just naturally good and naturally evil. We're in the naturally righteous spot, and they're in the naturally, you know. And I feel like if you start saying things like that without relying on having that central context of, in society, why is this good? Or in our grand society, in 1,000 years, why is this good? Or why is this bad? I feel like that's more... Fire's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
Does that mean we're done?
No.
Okay.
Keep going.
In my opinion, like, that is so much more, I guess, valuable? I don't know.
I think that's actually the fundamental religious ethic. Like, even if you're a Jew, right, and Nazis killed your family, it's always wrong to, you know, kill a baby. You know, even if it's a Nazi. You know, it's like there are things that apply to you that are evil no matter what you do. It's like,
I mean, can you say that, like, anything is entirely, like, what if it's you know, you can take, like, you know, there's so many ways you can twist it and, you know, be like, what aboutism, you know, what about this? What about if the baby's just in horrible pain because they were, you know, born in a completely, you know, like, horrible, you know, disfigured state or something? Like, is it still, do you keep them alive in that misery, or do you know, let them die? And, like, then it gets complicated, right?
Well, but there is that line where you agree the Holocaust is absolutely evil, right?
Yes, for society.
Okay. So there is...
for society.
Which is, to you and society, it's essentially the same thing.
Yes, because I am a human. Yes,
because you
I'm human. I'm a society. Yes. So to me, it is. Yes, it is entirely terrible. Yes,
right. And it's like, okay, so you agree there is an absolute evil, right? And
but when you say the word absolute, it makes me think of this greater than humanity. Basically, It makes me think of outside. That's when I hear the word absolute. All I think is, like, outside of humanity. You know, like, in a meta context of, like. You know, like, if some higher galactic being came down, they'd be like, you did something that's wrong for the universe or something, or, you know, like, that's what I think of when I hear absolute, which is why that word always, like, feels a little strange.
I guess it's like to me, as humans, we do, like, everyone, like, I've been traveling for 4 months, and everyone I know has an underlying ethic without fail. And again, as human beings, we can't help it. And to me, it almost, like, it doesn't necessarily matter what the objective scale of it is. It's like, if a god comes down and says, "Oh, that doesn't matter," or aliens or whatever, it's like that doesn't change the fact that it matters to you. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, no matter how hard you try, you can't stop loving your wife. You can't stop loving your cat. You can't stop loving art. You know?
True, but those, I can relate those all to, you know, being a human and my human experience and everything like that. I can't, you know, say that love is a concept that exists in, like, this, you know, greater scale.
Well, I mean, the
universe.
fact that it exists in general is crazy.
Yeah. Well, like, no, I don't think it's crazy. I think it's logical.
No, but it's like, if you look at, I mean, we were just talking about fire being this fucking weird, insane thing. It's like
because it's the main reason why it's weird is because we only see it through our own human. That's why I was kind of thinking about, like, for other animal, for an alien, they would see us sitting next to it, and for them, we might be in the flames, you know,
right.
like because that heat, like they might see that heat as like a danger. So to their eyes, they might see us as sitting inside a fire,
right.
like, you know, sitting here inside a flame, and they'll be like, what the heck are those people are killing themselves, you know, or something like that.
I guess for us, it's like there is a like, I would think the default would be nothing. I would like, there's something somebody said where it's like I'm not surprised that people are addicted to heroin. I'm surprised that everyone isn't addicted to heroin, you know? Like, based on just...
No, I understand that, yeah.
Well, it's like, based on instinct, I would, like, the way I was raised, I would have assumed everyone would be vicious and violent to each other, you know?
Yeah.
It's based on capitalism and, you know, all this stuff. And it's like... but that's obviously not the case. Like, I can walk down the street and experience...
I would say that's because of our, you know, different methods of, like, understanding society as a whole and, you know, understanding what's best. Because I can make a logical reason to not do that stuff because, you know, I have these self-interests that I know are, you know, instinctual of wanting to, you know, basically live the best you can comfortably and, you know, raise offspring, you know, as just... as an animal that exists. So in that sense, like, you know, there are ways certainly to observe the world around you and come to a conclusion that, you know, like, I would rather just enjoy, you know, drugs and do these things and, you know, do all these things. Yeah. And that gives me that provides the instinctual craving. I think that's possible.
But it doesn't work out for those people. They die, right?
Yeah, so obviously, then we look at it from an exterior perspective and we say, that was, you know, misguided or something.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is there is an you are making a subjective...
That's still human, though.
That is human, again, but it's like, where does that come from? It's like, why not...
I think it comes from instinct.
Well, and it's whether, again, I equate that instinct as, like, a God-given... I don't know, purpose in life. Mm-hmm. It's like, why not just do heroin? Why not just, you know, have a harem and 50 trillion wives, which people have done, obviously, but it's like, I don't know. To me, it seems like there's an underlying ethic that does make people's lives better. It's like, I meet people all the time who are not in good places. You know? Yeah. And it's like, to me, it seems like you're in a better place than them. It's like, you know, you clean your house.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely in a better place than, you know, the vast majority of the world as a whole, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of even just people that are, like, same socioeconomic.
Oh, yeah,
okay. Like people that choose, like people that choose to live the more instinctual life. Like, to me, it doesn't seem like you're living an entirely instinctual life. You know.
Well, according to my logic, everyone is living an entirely instinctual life because obviously I'm a determinist, so, you know.
I guess so. Do you believe the world is mostly bad?
Well, once again, I don't believe in anything's bad or good.
Okay.
I want to ask you a question.
Okay, fine. Go ahead.
Yes, I think the Holocaust is terrible for society. I want to ask you a question because you came at it from this place. You believe there is a concept of greater good and evil. So, like, the weird part about this, because if people hear us talk, in theory, I feel like there's a logic to be drawn from the way we've talked about both of these things that would lead them to believe that I am the most, like, free capitalist and you're the one that would be the most anti-capitalist, just based on those concepts that we've talked about.
Right.
But in reality, we're kind of, like, opposite when it comes to certain things like that. So that's kind of to tie it all back to what we started with originally. We finally did it. We finally closed the circle because I feel like there is a tie back to just the nature of capitalism and stuff like that. Because in theory, the way you talk about, like, you know, trying to find a good or evil for, I assume you want the best for most people in general. So then the question becomes, well, wouldn't that be better if there was, you know, if we found a way to make a society where everyone's taken care of, you know, evenly almost in, like, an economic way, so that everyone has the best that they can possibly have with our given, you know, resources and everything.
Right.
Versus, you know, kind of favoring a version where it might be, you know, some people have the strong, like, some people will have the best and some people will have nothing kind of stuff.
Right.
So how do you square that?
Well, the answer is it's complicated. If you look at socialist again, there hasn't been a socialist country that has worked.
True. And I'm not, for the record, I don't think socialism can work in a grand scale, like that idealistic scale. It's more so, I think, we just need to recognize, the inherent timeline of capitalism and do everything we can to slow it down, because I feel like there is a minor aspect in capitalism that is important for people's well-being, and that is we have an instinct to crave some level of conflict, like instinctually.
Yeah.
So we need to have some, we're not going to be happy if we don't have any of that. But we need to balance that with longevity, because obviously if we just feed into our need for conflict entirely, then that's going to lead to, basically one person ruling everything and, just taking out everyone else. So there needs to be some level of a balance in all that stuff. And I think a lot of capitalist ideas, when people argue for capitalism, they're usually arguing against regulations and against things that provide kind of socialism aspects. And in many ways, copyright, you can argue whether it is or not, but I would say that's a socialist concept. Yeah. And some people would argue that it's a capitalist concept. Or you can argue that minimum wage, certainly minimum wage, stuff like that is a socialist concept. And a lot of little things, anti-monopoly law, that's a huge socialist thing, obviously, because capitalism would be why should I have to obey these arbitrary laws? Why can't I just, if I do the best thing, I should be at the top, and I should be able to expand as much as I can and want to, and do stuff like that.
I think it's a complicated question, and it's not going to be something I'm going to be I obviously can't provide the answer.
I know.
But it's
I'm just curious how we reach these different. It's a very interesting idea that we reach such, kind of slightly different outcomes. Because you say things like, Holocaust is objectively bad, which I'll say, yeah, it's extremely bad for society, but you're like, no, it's bad. And I say, well, there's capitalism causes so much suffering around the world, every day.
Yeah.
And then you seem to kind of be very hesitant to, be like, well, maybe capitalism is inherently evil too, or something like that.
I think everything is inherently evil.
Oh, okay. So you think the world is inherently evil?
Well, to a degree. I think it's mostly good. It's
so not too much.
Well, but it's hard to say all this stuff while also participating in it. It's
that's true.
You have running water, you have the clothes you were made by somebody you don't know
very cheaply too.
It's what do you do about that ethically?
As Americans, I'll just add this real quickly. As Americans, we live in America, the global scale of economics. We are certainly basically as a unit, as a singularity, we are benefiting off a lot of wealth that a lot of people around in other countries are suffering for.
Yeah.
And there's no good answer to be obviously I'm not going to be I'm just not going to participate in society, or whatever. There's no way to square it in a good way.
And you still choose to, right? And
that's what I'm saying. Because there's no
Well, and I think that's a complex element of all this stuff. Is
it certainly is.
There is a price to pay for owning an iPhone and having a computer and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also it is good ultimately that those things exist. It enables more people to live more convenient lives. They can live better. Right?
Yeah.
On average, right?
In theory, we don't really know if this actually makes us happier on the grand scale, or if we'd be happier just living in forests, hunting food and doing that.
But if we were, born 300 years earlier, we'd be dying at 35 of polio.
That's true. It would be a lot more dangerous.
And I'd say that this is probably better. Obviously it's not perfect, but there is, again.
I like technology in general. Yeah, I'm not an anti.
And I think that's
even though we both feel some instinct to still get busy, be in forests with getting dirt on our hands and doing this kind of nature stuff.
Well, the reason I believe in capitalism is, and I guess, I believe in taking responsibility for your own life. No matter what, no matter how shitty the hand you're dealt is, you have to play it no matter what you do. I really believe that it's no one else's fault what your problems are than yourself. And you might be born addicted to heroin or born without arms, but that doesn't change the fact that you have to, like you have to eat well, you have to exercise, you have to like try and provide value for other people, no matter what you're doing.
There's yes.
And again, I like on a grand scale, I don't know anything about the macroeconomic side, but I know for the individual level, the act of going and making stuff, like I think that whether you say you're a capitalist or not.
Do you think, this is just follow up on what you just mentioned, do you think that rich people are somehow deserving of their wealth?
That's a very complicated question. The answer is I don't know.
Okay.
It obviously, like I know plenty of rich people who, like I met this guy who, between me knowing him and me meeting him and now 3 years ago, he's made $300 million. It's like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
That's a lot of people that are probably making a lot less money. Because wealth is like a finite resource. So every time I see like these, like Jeff Bezos, and they're like, this is his wealth, I'm like, well, that takes away a lot from a lot of people. So like I always consider that the extreme kind of evil-ish for society. That's the evil side of capitalism.
Well, I mean, when I look at, like, I think the U.S. governments in general are just a collection of people, right?
Yeah.
And again, from like
and they shouldn't be. They should be run by AIs. Like I always.
Yeah, but AIs are created by people,
I know.
And it's like who's correct? It changes all the time. And the argument for a mega corporation, which I don't necessarily agree with, but it's like a mega corporation is the same as a government. It's just a collection of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like when Elon Musk is arguing, like, a couple things. Like when Elon Musk is fighting the super rich being taxed, part of the thing he's arguing against is like all of his wealth, all of his net worth is in stock. Mm-hmm. So for him to actually pay those taxes, he would need to sell stock, which would actually decrease his overall ownership of the company, which would reduce his power in the company to actually do things, which actually might drive down the value of the company. So, again, that's, it's complicated.
And I would have a different, my main takeaway when it comes to that side of things would be that I think personally, I'm of the opinion that stock in and of itself is an inherently bad concept.
Yeah.
That the stock market was a massive kind of, not to say a scam, but it's basically a scam in my opinion.
Yeah.
I would say it's been exploited. I don't know if the original intentions were ever, in any sort of beneficial. I would imagine someone had a slightly but the way it's gone and the way it's basically progressed over the last 100-something years, like I would say stocks are incredibly just negative as a whole towards society as a whole. It's raised this whole kind of, basically, it's further helped to separate the wealth gap, into mega wealthy and super poor. Like, and the more rich people get, the more poor other people are getting. So it's led to we're certainly, when you said earlier that like a socialist country has never worked, I mean, there's also the fact that a capitalist country will never work on a long enough scale. Like, there's been so many societies that come and go, and the question is like how, like, you just want to push the end further back, which is why sustainability is like always, when anyone asks me like, what's your concept of politics or economics, I'm like, just sustainability, number one, that's all I care about. Because I want to see a time where we can get to technology that would make other things possible. If we can make energy super cheap or something like that, that completely changes our society as a whole. The need for like these rigid structures. Theoretically, if you make a device that just provides, amazing, like just basically free power or whatever, as unlikely as that might be. Yeah, it's so it's unlikely as it would be to, like, if that was like 1,000 times more efficient, and it was able to like power a house with just something that size, like that would radically change the entire, society as we know it. But we need to just hold out sustainability long enough to get to those points.
Well, I think part of the ethical argument of all this stuff is like, obviously oil is bad for the fucking world, right? It's just not good, right? And it's not good for society, whatever.
Yeah, but it also led to everything you love and enjoy. It got us to everywhere. Yeah,
it's like you can't.
It got us to where we are, and it was at a great, kind of, maybe a great cost. We'll see.
And I think it's like the idea of letting go of it all at once. It's like, letting go of oil completely tomorrow is a bad idea because most people use
we're tied
gasoline.
to it.
Yeah, we're tied to it. And it's like, the defending of it is like, okay, people might be like, I agree with you, we should be switching to energy, like solar energy.
Yeah, we don't really have the technology to make that effective.
We just can't do it,
Yeah. And I don't disagree with any of that. I'm just of the opinion that, once again, sustainability should be the big question we're always asking ourselves. Like, if we have to do stuff that's slightly, antithetical, or that feels antithetical, but that helps us in the long run, there's certainly arguments to be made for stuff like that. In many ways, society is like we can look at it as a reflection of the individuals too. Like, you asked me at the start, what do I feel about all this different stuff when it comes to, like, why do I do art? Why do I do these things? What's the point? Do I want personal wealth? And I talked about how, wealth, in and of itself, like, I'm just looking for a level to be comfortable with, but get that. But society as a whole also has to deal with that same exact concept. They just replace wealth with, like, natural resources and climate and all this stuff, and then it's like a level of, like, how much do you have to play ball to, like, make everything work?
Well, and the answer is to a degree, and I think that no matter what you do, there is a measure of I guess nothing you do is entirely good. Nothing that you do is entirely ethical. It's like, just by the act of you making an art video, it's like, people don't watch other people's art videos because yours are better, right? Is that unethical? It's like, the answer is, I don't think so.
Yeah, and that's
people do suffer because of that.
Yeah, another YouTuber will make less money, correct. Yeah. All I can do is not try to basically overexert greed, which I do live by that idea. Like, I'm always trying to encourage other people. I'll highlight other people's channel. Like, I don't want to be a monolithic, like, the YouTube art guy. Like, that is not something I want at all. Well, I want to be comfortable. I want to be able to live my life to my balanced level of how much income do I need to pursue my goals without being, diminishing returns on it. Like, if I feel like making 200,000 instead of 100,000 will give me very modest returns and happiness, but knowing that 100,000 can make, like, the biggest difference ever in someone else's life, like, it seems antithetical to society to want to have 200,000 instead of 100,000.
Right. Well, and again, I do agree with that. Do you? No, I didn't go to college. I dropped out of college.
Oh, well, I can one up you. I dropped out of high school, so.
Well, and I think if I could have dropped out of high school, I probably would have.
Yeah. As soon as I turned 18.
Nice.
Out the door.
But I think I don't agree with the modern, like, pharma. Big pharma I think is bad. I think it's unethical, mostly. And I think,
there's a lot of shady stuff, certainly.
But again, it's like the fact that I can go get, insulin if I'm diabetic. I'm not diabetic, but again, I'd rather be able to get insulin in general than not at all. And the fact that it's $600 is probably not a good thing, but I don't know how much insulin is, but it's expensive.
So then the question that arises from that is, like, is there a way to get all those benefits without necessarily fully making, basically going above and beyond? Like, what if they just charge less and accept, like, a more modest, like, basically wealth, share of the wealth? And that's what's so tricky, It's like, I feel like I do a pretty decent job of not trying to take more than I need, I don't like, I remember being a little kid, you go up to, like, a buffet or something, and they're like, take what you'll eat, don't take any more. Like, if you're wasting food, like, that's the most offensive thing. You're like, and you can eat as much as you can, like, you can take as much as you can eat, basically. And that's how, like, we used to go to, I think it was like a science camp we went to when we were kids, but they had that motto. Like, they were when we got there, it was, like, very strict about that. It was, and, like, they even you had to put all of your leftovers in a little bin,
right?
And they would weigh all the bins, and whichever table had the most had to do all the work and clean up and stuff. But that simple concept of like, if you can eat a lot, you can take whatever makes you like, that, but like, don't take more than you can eat. Like, and I feel like we live in a society where most people are kind of, let me just take everything I can, regardless of whether I can eat it or not. Like, I don't care. Right. And I feel like that's where kind of things have gone a little bit off the rails. And I'm not like because if you describe that buffet style as like capitalism or something, like, I'm not against, capitalism. I don't think capitalism with the right regulations are good, and that would be the regulation: only take what you can eat. But I feel like a lot of people argue for that concept of like, well, why shouldn't I be able to take everything I can take, and just like making those personal liberty arguments. And I'm just like, well, that's not good for, it's just wasteful. And like that, it could be better. Like, everyone could be better. And I think people often forget the value that we get out of other people being happy, because no one wants to live in a world where they have everything, but the world around them is in desolate, a horrible state. And I feel like people forget that. Like, it's much better to live around other happy people with less for yourself than to live with a lot of stuff, but the world's in ruin, So in that sense, I just consider most aspects of, like, when we talk about capitalism, like, just like people that are way into it, all that stuff, I just consider it so just anti, societal, like so negative, to theoretically, in my view, since I consider, good and evil to be just related to society, I consider it, a great evil, in that sense. Like, in a greater scale of things, obviously, beyond humanity, it doesn't matter, but for humanity, it's just evil. That's a nature of evil.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think something that Socrates said was, there's no great crime done out of necessity,
Well, yeah, it's not a crime. I guess the way they're saying is it's not really a crime. Is stealing a loaf of bread a terrible crime or something or is that what you're saying? No great crime out the Holocaust. It's like something like that is not done out of necessity, or like, steal, like that guy Martin Shulrecki. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Do you remember him? Yeah. Okay. The one who started jacking up all the prices
or something. He bought an AIDS.
Bought the rights company to them, and then it
was like $2 per thing, and he made it like $15,000.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Martin Shkreli. That's how you say it.
Yeah, there he is. But I think that's a crime done out of greed.
Yeah.
But
a lot of people like him and look up to that and say that's what capitalism's all about. Well, where do you stand on that? You think capitalism should be regulated?
Yes, I do. But the regulation of it is the tricky part. It's like
it is. That's why AI is there.
Yeah, I guess so. Right.
No, I see. There's like I think
about overlords.
The main thing that I can get on board with is I don't think we should leave it up to individuals to basically be the ones to not serve in their own self-interest and to give up a piece of their self for other people. I don't think that's the answer. I always consider the answer, like, that's what a government should be. And you should not you should be unhappy with your government. Like, that is, by nature, it's going to be forcing you to give up your own self-interest. Like, that's what I see as a government's purpose is, to be the one to say, hey, like, I understand you have your own self-interest. You want to give the best for your family, your kids, all of that stuff. But we have to then, be the voice of this is what's best for society. Yeah. And right now, I don't think our government does that very well. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of our either political side of Democrats or Republicans or anything, or any of the third parties. To be honest, I'm not.
I've been driving around the country for fucking like 4 months, and no one is. Yeah. No one likes Biden. No one likes Trump.
But I think a lot of people dislike them because they, I don't know if everyone still agrees with me that they should dislike them, but because I do think you should dislike them. Yeah. But I don't think we're even disliking them for, the reasons we should be. We're disliking them because they're doing everything incorrectly. Yeah. But government, that stuff, it should be like parenting, where it's like the kids should not be happy. No dinner past, or like no dessert past 9 o'clock. Whatever it is, they're doing stuff for our best. They should be. In theory, we should be upset because they're doing stuff that benefits, society, that is against our own interests. And everyone here wants like the government to be, just this thing that's just going to make their lives better. Like, that's, for some reason, we want government to be like just always in everyone's self-interest, when that's like kind of a weird state. So no one really, I don't know, I think everyone's happy because like we all know that's not what's happening, but it's also wrong on both sides. Like, no one's doing anything correctly.
Well, it's part of the reason why I believe, like, I don't know if getting super involved in politics in general helps your life, and part of the reason I believe in the individual is because I think if you really want to make a lot of money,
just wondering if that dog belongs to someone. It's just been running around.
You can invite it in.
Yeah, just get the dog in here.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That's fine. There might be someone who's watching him.
Yeah, but it's like I think that, again, no matter what you do, no matter what hand you're dealt, you have to, like, again, you didn't graduate high school.
Okay, never mind. Never mind. Oh, that was a bad idea.
That's awesome.
Well, it's gonna pull your solar power. Okay, yeah, someone's watching.
Yeah, I don't think posting political memes on Facebook is a good use of anyone's time.
Not unless they're very funny.
I guess so, but if that's all you do for 12 hours a day, probably not a good idea.
Yeah, when it comes to Donald Trump, like, I think, we talked about, or we were joking about this the other day, but like, people will get mad if I say it, but like, Donald Trump is hilarious.
Yeah, he is.
He is a funny and like, I understand why people voted for that, but that's such a miscalculation of what politics. For some reason, we would turn this politics into this thing where it's who do I like the best, and all of this stuff, and like, why? That's not what government's supposed to be. Like, it's not meant to be this like thing where you like the people. You gotta like go back to like student, I don't know if you had like student presidents, and you're like only the losers are supposed to want to do that, and like only the losers are supposed to be like, you're not supposed to like them. Like, it was not supposed to be like this just popularity contest.
Well, and I think an important part of like actually resolving all this stuff is acknowledging that every other person in this country voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah,
it's like,
because I think the education on like what a government should be, it's just like it's all over the place.
Well, but I think I meant, like, I didn't vote for Trump. I think he was president, but
yeah, exactly.
But I think that the people that I know that have voted for him have a point to a degree.
What is that point?
Like, my family in Nebraska who voted for Donald Trump. Trump has much more lenient policies on water than Obama, which is like, again,
he's certainly like he likes deregulation,
and for them that was like, okay, they saw that as a good thing, and that's a perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, once again, because they are looking out for their own self-interest, which they should be, but then theoretically the government, once again, should be, like, in my opinion, that's what they should be doing. They should be, they should never be popular like that. They should be doing the stuff that's, like, everyone's just grumbling about, like, stupid taxes. Yeah, like, that's what a government's supposed to be doing, like, making the world just kind of more, finding that, but they're, I don't know, it's so annoying, because they're just not that smart either. Like, you get the impression that the people in government are just like the least, like they don't understand it. Like, they're just in it for popularity and like attention, and like they're just all kind of terrible.
Well, I think the second it becomes about us, like us and them. Like, I know people who, if they knew somebody voted for Donald Trump, they would stop talking to that person. And I think that's actually very dangerous. That is very much like us and them, kind of tribal mentality. It's like that is how something horrible happens. That's how the Capitol riot, thing. Those people who did that felt completely justified in what they were doing. And people got murdered.
Because they just have this opinion that what a government should be and stuff, like it should be for us, government for the, like they have this government for me, and that's, I think both sides have that, to be honest. Like, government should be for me, when I just don't think that's a good mentality to have.
I personally think that Republicans and Democrats don't have the best interest of the people in general in mind.
I'd agree with that. I think Democratic policies tend to be a little better, but obviously their execution's terrible because they're just as kind of buried in the muck of it all as like the other side is. So it's not like, in theory, they sometimes say stuff, but they have no execution, and they're like the party of, you know, just being terrible at getting anything done.
I guess I have a question for you as it relates to us as individuals.
Okay.
It's like you've never sold any Gumroads or any video tutorials. And
Yeah.
I'm curious, again, if you feel comfortable answering.
Yeah, I'll answer anything. Yeah.
Why have you never made a course that you would sell to people?
It's like I started the YouTube with the big mentality of I need to make sure all of my information is out there for free to everyone. I don't know. I just kind of wanted it to be like that. I just want everyone to be accessible to all information. I just think that's important. Once again, it just goes back to, I think it leads to a better society as a whole, even if it doesn't lead to my own selfish best interests. And maybe that's, you know, I'm just more, I guess, more aware of like what I need to be happy to some extent.
Yeah.
And I just know that, like, you know, if I do this, I will, you know, to go back to my instinct, like I know that I've been arranged in a way where that actually benefits my own happiness. So it's not like I'm giving up happiness for like this or that. Like I'm literally just doing whatever makes me the most happy, which is what I think everyone's doing. And that just comes across, you know, depending on how they were raised in different ways. But it's literally just, you know, I find that is the best method to make me happy. It gives me, you know, luckily I didn't do YouTube initially for money because that wasn't even a thing that they had when I started it. And I would still do it if there was no money involved in it. But now that, you know, there is a little bit of money involved, and it's enough for me to be good. So I don't feel this strong need to like squeeze as much money out of it as I can, because I'm like, well, let other people do that stuff. They can make some money, that's fine. You know, I just want everyone to find their own levels of like equilibrium in terms of happiness and financial wealth and everything. Like I'm not trying, my wife hates it every time I mention this, but because I'll always say stuff like, yeah, I'm not trying to make like a ton of money or do anything like that. And she'll be like, why just make more money, it's good for but I'm like, I know that it's not going to necessarily make us happy or anything. Like it'll be, you can have more fun, you can drive a slightly fancier, flashier car, you can go on more extravagant things, but it's like, you know, those are so diminishing. Like I've had the most fun in my life, like in driving like a 96 Saturn with friends, you know, like you don't need those things to be happy. And
$1 tacos.
Like you just, you know, happiness is so like available to everyone. And I think people get so wrapped up in, you know, like all the glitz and glamour things that they think that that's going to somehow be like this new experience of happiness, when it never is. It's never this like life altering moment like, oh my gosh, I'm in a Lamborghini, like I feel this joy that I've never felt before. Like no one feels like that. It's the military. It's helicopter. They're coming for us.
Oh no.
They
were just talking about the government.
Got a couple Blackhawks flying by.
It's gonna be a drone strike. Well, that guy that's worth like $300 million.
How does he feel?
Well, I was talking to him about this stuff. I mean, like the thing that he told me is like, live at the scale that you want to live at. You know,
that his $300 million scale?
I mean, he's worth $30 million when I met him, and he lives in a very nice part of New York City.
Okay.
He has a nice apartment. He has 5 kids.
Yeah.
You know, like being worth $30 million is not that much in his neighborhood. People,
understood.
Obviously, he's way more wealthy now, but he was saying it's like, you know, it doesn't matter how much money you have at all. It matters like what, like if you want to live in Southern California, you need to earn a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's a weird comment to say when you have a ton of money, to say it doesn't matter at all.
Well, I guess.
I mean, obviously, it matters a lot for people that don't have money.
For him, it's like a tool. Like he wants to. He wants to make movies, he wants to do all this stuff, you know, and it's like money is required in order to do that stuff.
That's true.
And for him, it's like identify the life you want to live and the things you want to do, and build the amount of income you want based off that, you know.
Yeah.
Like for me, I would like to be able to buy a house in Southern California, which is going to require a good chunk of money.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I need to do certain things in order to have that, but it's only in service of that goal, that lifestyle goal.
Yeah.
or if I wanted to make a video game or start an art gallery or something.
No.
You know.
And to be fair, to go back, it would be a lot more affordable for you if we had better regulations and stuff.
I guess so, yeah.
Like if our markets, especially even real estate markets, were regulated a little better, you would be able to buy a house in a much more reasonable way. Like, capitalism is certainly trying to make it so you can't afford to get a house.
Yeah.
Because it's, we talked about this before, how it's geared toward, there's so much money to be made from making people live a renter's life their whole life, that it's just so beneficial to those people to just make you rent and to try to lock you out of the housing market. So, once again, that capitalism thing is just, it's not necessarily making everyone's life better. You could have bought this house for $100,000 probably.
$10 million, but
yeah,
because it's near the beach in San Diego.
it's crazy.
There was a stage in my life where I wanted to be in real estate. There was a stage in my life when I was working for people who do non-rent control properties, and they're fighting against rent control. No, that's, I come from a family, my wife does real estate stuff, she does mortgage stuff. My parents own, I'm not going to say where they're like, great, they own a part of like an apartment building stuff. Not like, it was just a minor investment, so they're not like, landlords or anything, but like that was certainly an added financial benefit, when we were younger growing up. Like it was this huge source of extra income, owning a piece of real estate that just accrues tons of money all the time. Now, obviously, that's great for us in our own self-interest, but I don't, is that great for society as a whole? I don't know. The answer is I don't think so. I mean, they were telling me this story about
Comrade Christian.
A tiny bit. I mean, it's part of the reason why I'm not making courses or anything myself. It's like, I'm not entirely bought in on the, but I'm trying. I think it's mostly positive. Again, I'm confused on this stuff. It's part of the reason why I live in a van. But
you're kind of on this weird
soul searchy.
This weird side of like you have this very obviously the van life. It's a very, I don't know, idealistic kind of more. Certainly, it kind of strikes against capitalism in many ways. This independence of having your own thing, which is basically, this is like owning your own property. No one, you don't have to pay rent, you don't have to do any of that. But on the other hand, I know you're also more leaning toward liking those certain aspects of that stuff.
I think so. I'm saying that I think once I'm in that, it might change a little bit. But I think the grass is always greener. I guess, like, they were telling me this story about this. They bought this rental property for like $300,000, and they spent $40,000 putting in like stainless steel appliances, like toasters and countertops and all that kind of stuff. And that only took like 3 months. And over the course of that, 3 months of building, it increased the value of the property by about like $600,000. So in 3 months, they made $600,000 just by, I guess, the appreciation of the property and putting in toasters and
it's wild.
Like, that is almost no work, and it's like you need the $30,000, like, I guess I think they put like a 10% down payment on it, so it's 20%, so they need the initial $60,000 plus the $40,000 for renovations. So you need $100,000, but that $100,000 allows you to make $900,000.
I know the thing that, like, people that maybe didn't grow up with money, or I don't know what, but, like, it's so hard to explain to people just how easy it is to make money when you have money. Like, it's almost obnoxiously, just a joke. And then you get, so anytime I see people that, like, look up to rich people, I'm like, it's
not that hard.
It's when you have money, it's not hard to make money. It's almost like jokingly easy. I was talking earlier about, like, the friend of the family I have, who I like to always point out because they're filthy, rich millionaires, and the guy doesn't know how to read or write. Like, he literally has no education. And he was given a piece of land by his parents, who, they just stumbled into by circumstance. So, they were poor. That's why he, dropped out of school and never learned to read and write and stuff. But, like, way back then, they just kind of stumbled into a piece of land by, I don't know the specifics. And that just was enough to catapult them into this whole other stratosphere, with time and rent. Because now it's like a warehouse district, and there's just buildings there, and they collect massive amounts of rent from these buildings, and it's like he has no business skills, like no, just nothing of things. He just owns a thing and collects a ton of money from it. And meanwhile, you have all these people that are like struggling to, pay for college. They have these dreams of like going to business, like so many people are just, fighting tooth and nail to try to get a piece of wealth, to one day, especially if you don't have money. It's like, it's so ridiculously hard. And to tie it back to art, it's the same thing. Like, to become an artist, it's so ridiculously hard if you don't have like a certain amount of free time and just like availableness. So in many ways, like the evils of capitalism and my parents owning an apartment is what allowed me to become an artist and give stuff, give educations away for free. So there's like certainly, you can say like, well, if there wasn't that stuff, then you wouldn't have been an artist, you wouldn't have been able to offer art to the world or anything like that, which is most artists, honestly, that I know come from some level of a decent family background, because that's the only way there's no way for you to just sit around doing art and living at home, especially like in your 20s. And that's kind of what's required to actually get to that point in just art and stuff, which is wild.
Yeah, well, and again, it's a strange world. I mean,
it's a strange world.
Like, I don't know, the idea of doing art professionally too is like another, like, I think people idealize it. It's like the idea of being a concept artist or having again, going to art school and getting a degree and stuff. It's like, it's all part of the, I guess, education system, which puts people in debt, which makes the people that own the schools more money. Which, it's like...
Yeah, it's a mess. It's being an artist is a big mess of everything. And I mean, but it's just a microcosm of everything that's, an issue. Yeah, I don't have good answers. But the best thing, in my opinion, Christian, that the best thing you can at least have in your brain as like someone who's either rich or whatever is just a healthy awareness, an observational, which is why, like, I think it's just important to be just, just aware of things, like aware of, how, things that you benefit from, aware of the things that, hurt other people, aware of just all that stuff. And that's the best you can do, because at least that will prevent you from, at least for me, it prevents me from, just being okay if like the government's like, let's take away regulate, like do something that just benefits me, like, I mean, financially, like all homeowners are getting a big tax cut or something. And like, cause I'm, if I own a home, so it's like, obviously that benefits me a ton. Or like if they don't regulate the housing market and they allow corporations to just keep buying up houses, and most houses, are owned by people that already own a house, secondary, third real estate, things like that. And that certainly benefits me, but it doesn't benefit society. Yeah. So, like, I just have to be, aware of that. And to some extent, would I be like an activist for being like, no, one home only? Like, right. It would be harder for me to say that because it doesn't benefit me, right. And that's the big problem that everyone has. But I can at least acknowledge that I wouldn't be like I wouldn't be like storming the halls of Congress if they were like, hey, you're only allowed to own one home now. Right. If they said something like that, like I would at least have the skills to be like, okay, fine. Like I know it doesn't benefit me, but it's going to make society, like it might be the thing that helps society stay, sustainable for another 100 years. Right. Because right now, almost all properties that get bought are secondary or third houses by people. There's very few people coming from a place of renting to a place of owning. It's mostly people that own a house buying secondary houses and things like that. Yeah. And that's, once again, that's why you can't buy a house, Christian. That's why you'll never buy a house, Christian. That's why you're going to live. It is so difficult to do that. I tell all my students all the time, that's like, you need to convince your parents to at least co-sign and do all this stuff. You need to own property do whatever you can to own something, because, it's such an important thing. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of I don't like it. I don't fight it too much, but I fight little parts of it. I'll at least like constantly be telling people, like, and if a bill comes up that says people can only do this, I don't know. I might not even be willing to do one house per person, but certainly 2 houses per person. Right. I'd be willing to sign that bill, and I don't think most people would, because once again, if you own a house, you're like, screw that. Like, if as soon as I sign that, the value of my house goes down and I lose money. Like, I would never do that, and that's like where the core of our politics divide kind of starts coming from. It's like, why would I vote against things that benefit me and stuff like that?
I guess part of the other flip side of that is the people that I know that are in real estate. It's like, once I can only own one house, why would I improve the properties that I'm in? Why would I it's like, well, there's no reason for me to make more money, so I'm not going to even try. And so like, I'm not going to improve. I'm not going to which again, to some degree is flawed logic, but I think there's some amount of truth in it.
Yeah, there's always like this, little bits of stuff like that, but that's why, once again, you can't put humans. We need the supercomputers to just be like calculating, okay, in 100 years capitalism will fail because of XYZ, and it'll be like the solution is to limit 2 houses per person. If it says something like that, then we just got to be like, well, okay, it ran the simulations. I guess that's what we got to do.
Now we're doing it.
But I don't think that will happen because there's too much. Honestly, to end, because we can probably wrap this up. To end on the most sour note, like, I think that there's probably, for our stage of capitalism and America as a whole, like, it's certainly on a sharp decline, and I'm very, like, sadly, I'm a little bit, like, pessimistic on, like, how much the future will, like, keep going, for America. Like, I'm like, America probably has, like, 20, 30 years left in it, most, before it falls apart and gets rebuilt up as something new, different. All societies come and go, civilizations, countries, the Roman Empire fell quickly, and that'll happen to every kind of big society like this. Because I think people are too locked into a certain mentality that I just talked about. I'm not going to vote to have people only be able to own one house, even though it's destroying us all. Because I got to keep Christian out of the housing market any chance I get. Because the second Christian gets a house, I can tell you the value of my house is going right down the toilet, and there's all of my money gone.
Also, because I'm a slight minority too. I just drive down the property values.
Just driving it down. Once Christian moves in, make sure don't let this guy into your communities, everyone.
I'm very.
Once you see him walking around, it's all over.
I appreciate you doing this, man. Is there anything you'd like to say to?
I don't really care about promoting anything too much. Go find some new artists. Every day you should be looking for a new artist. Go on ArtStation.
Follow Josh Sunga.
Josh Sunga's great.
Josh Sunga's awesome.
I love Josh Sunga. He's the thumbnail expert, and I hope he can understand thumbnails, because I want him to be able to teach them, because he's like Mr. Thumbnail.
He's really good at it.
He's much better than me. I'll just straight up. I'll say that. He's a student. He's half my age, better than me at thumbnails. I like his thumbnails a lot.
Taylor Olivis, Scott Flanders.
All these people are wonderful.
Great people.
And I'm very happy to. I'm good with you don't have to no longer subscribe. I'm pretty good right now. Just keep watching the new videos.
Unsubscribe.
No, I'm right at I finally hit the point where I'm like, I can live, like, pay for all my bills and stuff comfortably and not. But I don't need to be much more. I'm just pretty good. I'm pretty good with everything. Status quo, just keep it going, and then let everyone else try to build up their stuff too.
Sick. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
For sure.
Cool. Okay, I'll cut it there.
Okay, what?